Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk Literacy Act, Morgan Freeman and Sir Charles Barkley. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. If there ever were a piece of education legislation that has suffered from really bad timing, it's Alabama's Literacy Act. It was passed in 2019, which was the same year COVID-19 was discovered, and it's set to go into full effect this school year after a year of remote learning and self-quarantines, and depending where you are and where you went to school, at times some creative learning schedules. Now, what's supposed to happen under the Literacy Act is that kindergartners and first, second, and third graders are tested at the beginning, middle, and end of each school year. Teachers identify who's not reading on grade level. Parents are notified and pulled in, and an individual reading plan is put into place, and then everybody gets after it. Updating parents monthly, coming up with a plan B if necessary, whatever it takes to get the kids up to speed. Because if they're not reading on grade level at the end of the third grade, they get held back. See, experts say that third grade is a critical time for reading. After you leave the third grade, you have to be able to read well in order to learn in all your other subjects. Well, here we are a couple years after the Literacy Act passed, and AL.com's Tricia Powell-Crane reports that education officials are again considering the possibility of delaying implementation. Experts are saying that amid the challenges caused by the pandemic, it would be difficult to identify which students would need to be retained. Members of the Technical Advisory Committee for Testing said they'd like 2 years of good data without some of the limitations we've seen over the past year. And State Superintendent Eric Mackey said some schools might be looking at holding back half their third grade class. Quote, "You absolutely have to have somebody come in and hold your hand through that process because it's overwhelming to think that you have that many students with that kind of need." At the same time, there's some concern on the board, and Mackey said he shared that concern, that backing off the schedule might cause some to be less aggressive in classrooms now. State lawmakers would be the ones who would ultimately make the decision to suspend the Literacy Act. Look for that to come up during the legislative session early next year. Morgan Freeman didn't move to Gulf Shores to spend the rest of his life hiding in the sea oats. The Oscar-winning actor and America's greatest narration voice sat in on a panel that questioned potential Gulf Shores police officers, reports AL.com's Howard Koplowitz. Now, there had been more than 100 police officer candidates when the process began, and 9 were still around for taking questions from the panel that Freeman was on. Freeman and University of Mississippi professor Linda Keena, who also sat on the panel, donated $1 million to establish the Center of Evidence-Based Policing and Reform at Ole Miss. Right now, only one position is open for a police officer in Gulf Shores. The department did say that it expects more openings next year. You may recall that 25 years ago, the NBA was celebrating its 50th anniversary and announced a list of the 50 best players in NBA history, as voted on by a panel of players, coaches, media, and executives. Leeds, Alabama's Charles Barkley was on that list, and at the time he still had about 4 seasons left as a player. Now the NBA is celebrating its 75th anniversary with the best 75 players in NBA history. And once again, former Auburn star and current TV analyst Barkley made the list. The list of players was being announced in groups of 25, and Barkley was in the first group of players announced, along with players such as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Julius Erving, Seminole Dave Cowens, Hakeem Olajuwon, Bill Russell, and John Stockton. Barkley played more than 1,000 NBA games in his career and averaged 22.1 points and 11.7 rebounds per game. And he's the all-time NBA leader in headline-making quotes. Thank y'all so much for listening. We'll be back here again tomorrow. Until then, stop by and see us anytime you want to. We're always there on the internet at AL.com.